Hey, welcome back everyone to Manny School of Art as we continue with our 1 point perspective series. Today we want to look at how to draw shadows in perspective. Now, shadows are a super important element when you are trying to draw things in 3 dimensions, right? So, like right now, everything that we see here is just drawn onto this piece of paper, but doesn't look like they're attached to the ground. Okay? The cast shadows kind of help us do that. So this is the same identical image, but we've added the cast shadows using the rules of perspective to basically tie them in to the ground plane, right? So they're no longer floating around like these are. By putting in the cast shadows, we can actually get some additional information about the time of day it is, the mood, the height of the light, the direction of the light source, etc. So to me, the cast shadows are kind of what kind of holds all of this together. It makes these items look like they're part of this background. Now to draw cast shadows onto a surface or onto the ground plane, there are just a few extra little rules that you have to learn in order to make it work. They're not that hard to learn, and once you learn them, you can actually play with the different locations of the light source to get some very cool effects with your shadows. So let's go ahead and get started. The next thing we want to look at is how to create shadows in perspective. So there's a couple of steps that you need to do in order to get this right. First thing you have to do is decide where you want the light source to be. I'm going to put mine here just so that it's in camera, but the light source may often be off your picture plane. But for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to put it here. So let's say that the sun is right here, okay? So we know that it's on the left side, so we know the shadow is going to come this way somehow. But now we have to figure out what the angle is and where to cut it off. So the first thing that I want to do is I'm from the light source. I'm going to bring that down, right? If I put it here, I got to bring it down into the ground plane right here. If I put it here, then my angles are going to be this way when I do the shadow. But if I come down further, it'll come straight across. And if I come way down here, then the shadows will go that way, okay? So for the sake of demo, I'm going to bring it down to, let's say right here. Okay. So here's the center part here. And this is what we're going to use to cast the shadow to the right, okay? So what I want to do here is I want to extend. I'm going to use this one here, not that one. I'm going to use this one here, and I'm going to extend these lines this way. I don't know how far, so I'm just going to make them long. And same with the back one here, like so. Then I have to use this point here for my light source, and I have to line it up with the wall that's casting the shadow, which in this case is this wall right here, right? This is the wall that is opposite of the light source. So I'm going to take the center of my light source, line it up to this point here, and mark it here. And then I'm going to line it up to that one there. It's actually not going to be much noticeable. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take that to the vanishing points. And that is what the shape of this cast shadow would be for this particular object, with a low light source here and with the angle way down here. When you shade the cast shadow, remember that you don't want to see an outline. And the cast shadow should be somewhat transparent. So if there was grass or some other texture on the ground plane already, you should still be able to see that. And the darkest part would be where the object meets the shadow, the cast shadow. If the light source is super bright, you'll have fairly clean edges. But if you have a soft diffuse shadow or light source, then these edges would be very faint. All right, so I mentioned a little while ago that sometimes your light source is not going to be anywhere near your picture plane. So for this one, I'm going to put the light source way up here, well above the picture plane, so that you guys can see how everything changes. I still have to bring a line down to the ground plane. So from my light source, let's make a mark. Let's make it right here so you guys can see what's going to happen to these angles. Now, let's start by figuring out this distance here. So we know that the light source is to the right, so that means this wall and the wall that's back here would be the ones casting the shadow. So I'm going to take this point that I made that corresponds to the light source and extend it away. I'm going to do the same thing on this one here. And in theory, if I were to draw this see-through, there would probably be one right about there. So that tells me the direction that the shadow is going to go, but now I need to figure out where does it get cut off. So we're going to take this point up here, the light source point, right there. And we're going to line that up to the top right of this. That's going to tell me where to cut this off down here. So I got that lined up there, top right lined up. So it's right there. Okay. Now this is straight across. It's parallel to the picture plane. So then all we have to do is take that line and go straight across here. And that would be the actual shape of this particular shadow. And just fill it in. So 2 different light sources, different heights, different angles produce different cast shadows. And remember not to outline your cast shadows. I drew them kind of dark so that it's easier to see on camera, but in reality, you're not going to see these outlines. There would just be a shadow instead. Now let's see what happens if you have an object like a pyramid or a cone, and how you would do the shadows for that. So for this one, I'm going to put the light source way off the picture plane to the left. I still have to bring it down, right? So all of this is the ground plane. So I still only want to bring that down and decide where I want the bottom part to be. So let's put it here. Now, just like before, we have to figure out which wall is the one that's going to be in shadow. Because the light source is here, then this is going to be the wall that's in shadow. So I'm going to take the base of that wall and extend it out. Okay. I also need to take the center, right? Because the center is what I have to line up to the top when we do it from the light source. So I'm going to take this right here, line it up to that center. So it's important when you do this that it is see-through, right? Now we need to figure out how far this shadow is going to cast. So I'm going to line up the center of my light source to the top of the pyramid. And I want to make sure that I'm marking this line, the center line, this one right here. So for this particular light source, this will be what the pyramid shadow is going to look like. So I'm going to attach that to the base of the pyramid on this side and also on the far left. So you can see just a little slither of a shadow on this side. So this and this wall are the ones that are being affected by the sunlight. Okay, so this is what this shadow would look like. A cone is done exactly the same way as a pyramid. You just have to connect the edges of the circle to the tip of the cone. So guys, this is what these two objects look like with the light source up here and the angle for the shadows down here. Remember that these two things should always be established first, but you can move them around. So you can even make it so that the light source is coming from behind the viewer if you wanted to. You have to experiment a little bit. It is a little tricky, but once you decide where you want the light source to be, in this case the left side, then move it down to the ground plane wherever you want it to be, in here. Remember to use this one for the bottom marks and use this one for the top portions of your objects. And if you do that, then you can pretty much draw any shadow. All right, the last thing I'm going to show you is how to deal with a situation like this, where part of the shadow is going to be on the ground plane and part of the shadow is going to be going up a separate surface. So start off the process exactly the same. I've already had my object drawn out. Since the light source is up and to the left, I know that these two walls are the ones that are going to be affected. So I'm going to line up the bottom wall here, excuse me. And I'm going to extend this line until I get to the base of this wall here. I need to do the same thing with that one. So I'm going to line up the back and extend that one until I get to the base here. Boom, right there. Okay. The next thing that I need to do is have those go up the wall. Straight up the wall, because this is a vertical wall. So I'm just going to go up like so. And then just like before, I'm going to line up the light source to the top corner here. Okay. And that'll tell me where to cut off the shadow. So I'm going to line those two up right here. And I'm going to mark it right there. Okay. Now I can simply take that to the vanishing point. And that is actually the shape of the shadow based on the location of the light source and this dot that I use for my angle. And there you have it. Not too difficult. It's just one little extra step. When you get to here, remember you have to go up. If this was an incline plane, then you would have to follow the incline. All right. So hopefully this all makes sense. That's all for this week. Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching. See you next time.